Hello and welcome to Comically Incompetent. My name is Doug.
And I'm Ben.
And this week we're going to be talking about the Red Guardian for our Black Widow month. But before we get into that, everyone knows what's going on in the world right now. I don't think I have to explain anything to you guys. So because of the situation that we are in, Ben and I are actually recording from our separate homes. So if anything sounds different, feels different, we are not in the same room together. And that's our first time doing this, so we hope you guys can forgive us for that, but we're going to give you the best show that we can in these times and hope to entertain you through all this.
Yeah, hopefully this brings a little bit of levity to the current situation.
The beer this week, to dive right into it, is we're going to do the Red Trolley Ale from Karl Strauss because of the color red. And Ben, why don't you dive a little bit into...
creative.
Yeah, thanks. Why don't you dive a little bit into Red Guardian?
All right, yeah, so just kind of diving straight into it. Let's go into physical appearance, because, you know, that's always the best way to judge everything, is physical appearance, as we all know. By the outer.
Everything looks on the outside.
So people might be surprised to hear that the Red Guardian kind of sort of looks like a KGB version of Captain America. He's got a nice, snappy-looking spandex suit. It's... He actually looks kind of goofy, I'm going to be honest, and that's coming from somebody that loves a guy that has an American flag as a suit. But it's a bright red suit with the occasional white star on it. Of course it's spandex and strapped as tight as humanly possible, because that's how every superhero has to go. You know, because you got to get the sex appeal.
Oh, you got to see those muscle KGB lines.
Bingo. Yeah. He also has a helmet with a white stripe going down it that kind of looks like a mohawk. Like, do you remember, what are they called, faux hawks? Where it's like a mohawk but super short. Is that a faux hawk? Yeah, he's basically got a white faux hawk down his helmet. And then he has what I'm sure I will hearken back to a lot in this, where he has a disc on his belt buckle. He has like a big disc on his belt buckle, which often acts as a shield, but it's not a shield. People are very touchy about that. It's a disc. It is a disc that goes on his belt. That is not a shield.
That's kind of all right. That's getting nitpicky now.
It's super nitpicky. It's one of those things where it's like people are like, Namor was before Aquaman. It's like, nobody cares, dude. Nobody cares. To go back to Aquaman, so it's also got the white star on it, and in addition to that, he's got a white utility belt, which, you know, like Captain America or Black Widow always had, where it's got, you know, grenades, things like that. It's just kind of his catch-all, be-all utility circus, I'll call it, because that's a fun word.
Interesting word to use there.
Yeah, it's a circus. Well, because, you know, it's one of those, like, the Penguin, where it's got all this weird stuff that's like, why the heck is that on a utility belt? Yeah, so I guess I'm probably skipping back a little bit. He is a Marvel character, which I probably should have led into a little bit earlier, but he's a Marvel character that was first created in 1967. It was created by Roy Thomas and John Buscema, which is a really fun name to say. I really like John Buscema's last name, because it's so close to Steve Buscemi.
Steve Buscemi, yeah.
Yeah, every time I look at it, I'm like, oh, what is that? So as far as origin.
Yeah, I was going to say, just first, based on his look, it looks like they did a really good job in the movie to capture his look. I mean, better than what they did with Taskmaster. I know we talked about that last week. But...
it was pretty darn spot on. I'm going to be honest. Like, as soon as I saw it, I was like, yep, I got no doubts. That's the Red Guardian right there.
Yeah,
I was pretty happy with it. So he has an interesting backstory, and it's kind of one of those... I'm curious to see how the MCU approaches this, because he has a couple different backgrounds, but the primary one is that he was one of the Soviet Union's top pilots during the Cold War. He was just great old soldier man. He wasn't enhanced or anything like that, just a great pilot. And then he actually married Natasha Romanoff, or Natalia Romanova, or whatever you want to call her, but he married Black Widow, which...
Interesting.
Yeah, you'd think would have come up by some point, but, you know, Black Widow's spooky and mysterious, so maybe...
Not the vibe I got from that trailer. He seems like her dad in the trailer.
Yeah, I'm thinking the MCU might do something like that, where he's a dad figure, instead of... They don't seem the same age. And I think they're actually pretty close. I think it's just that the actor that's playing Red Guardian, the guy from Stranger Things.
David Harbour
looks so much older than oh my gosh, I'm forgetting everyone's names.
Scarlett Johansson.
I was like, Black Widow, and I was like, I gotta start using actors' names and actresses' names.
I think a lot of it comes from, they gave him that like really intense like beard, which is very gray, and I think he looks I think they made him look a lot older in the movie.
He also has like old man muscles, where like he looks like he's muscular, but he doesn't look like a young muscular in that.
Well, he's a young dude.
Movie.
He's only born in 1975.
Oh, it's not bad. Yeah, he just looks older than that, and I have no idea why. Maybe it's a bunch of contributing factors.
Yeah, he's like 11 years older than Scarlett Johansson, which I guess is not a whole lot.
Oh, that's actually... I thought he was going to be closer in age to her, but that age feels about right then.
Yeah.
Yeah, so going back to that, traditionally he's married to Natasha, Black Widow. He went out on a mission, and he was told while he was out on that mission that he was going to be selected for a super secret program that nobody could know about. Like, he'd basically have to disappear, and he would no longer be who he was before, which another thing I should have gone back to, Red Guardian, his actual name is Alexei. So if I ever say Alexei, Red Guardian throughout the process, it's the same character. I get the feeling they're probably not going to call him the Red Guardian in the movie. I think they're probably going to call him Alexei, much like how you hear like Steve Rogers a lot, as opposed to like some movies you hear Captain America, but like usually in casual conversation, So he's probably going to get Alexei.
Marvel didn't, I feel like, call a lot of their villains like the villain name. Like, they never call Crossbones.
Yeah, I think the one that the one that they most often called their comic book name, and I'm about to infuriate comic book fans everywhere, is the Mandarin in Iron Man 3, which ended up not even being the Mandarin. But they called him the Mandarin, and then it wasn't even the Mandarin. That was so offensive.
My side tangent about that is that you get Ben Kingsley, phenomenal actor, one of the best actors of the time, and he's going to play the trailer thinks like, oh, he's going to play the Mandarin. You're like, this is going to be amazing. I'm so excited for this. And then they're like, no, Guy Pearce is actually the Mandarin. And you're like,
what? Why
that doesn't make sense.
Why would you do that? Like, what's going on? But I have heard rumors there is a chance we get the real Mandarin back when we eventually get to Shang-Chi.
I saw that. I looked on the IMDb for that movie, and yeah, there's someone listed to play the Mandarin. Yeah,
so that could be really cool because people are really big fans.
Yeah.
So going back to the Eastern continents, the Mandarin and dude, bringing it back to Russia. So while he was out on this mission and he got recruited for the secret program, Natasha was told that he was killed on that mission, so she wasn't even included in the loop, which is really brutal. Her losing her husband, because essentially that's what happened, is she thought her husband just died on this mission, led her to joining the Black Widow program, or, the Red Room training. Again, this is where it gets a little mucky, because, like, in the comic books, it's a little different than the MCU. They've done a lot of things really good. Maybe the Black Widow movie will clear some of this up, but there's, like, some just, like, interesting differences that I didn't expect to see in her backstory. But, she's a mysterious character, and so totally makes sense that some of this would be shrouded a little bit from us. And hopefully this movie gives us a little more information on that.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, spoiler alert if you haven't seen Endgame. It's like a year old now, but with her character having died, it's interesting that they're going to go back and now fill us in, I guess, on what we didn't know about her character when she was a part of the series. I think it's an interesting way of going and bringing in... I think that this movie is not going to be as much of a way of introducing and learning about her as it is introducing and bringing in new characters, possibly the Red Guardian being more a part of it. Like we talked about in the Taskmaster episode, maybe him being more a part of later movies. I think that they're using her backstory as a way to set up new characters.
Oh yeah, there's definitely going to be some sort of new character coming out of this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So essentially after she went and joined the Black Widow program, then the Red Guardian joined the Secret Soldier program being headed by the KGB, which if people are unfamiliar, the KGB is the Russian version of, I believe, like the CIA, I believe. I don't know if it's like CIA or one of the, one of those.
Yeah, one like the intelligence
programs.
agencies.
Yeah, one of the intelligence agencies. And over this training, he became like very different. Like he was originally a really good guy before this. Like that's why Natasha was in part attracted to him, is he was kind, he was loving, like he was a good soldier and he was a good pilot, but he wasn't brutal or anything. He was very virtuous, but he became really cruel, violent. He liked the pain that he was bringing to people, so he became a totally different person, which is very important to the way that his character acts. On his very first mission, he went out and he fought, surprise, surprise, Captain America, Hawkeye, and Black Widow, because these are some like the OG Cold War heroes of the Marvel universe. Black Widow obviously at first didn't really know who he was because he had a helmet on. This was some years later. She'd already deserted the KGB and gone and joined. I believe they were all part of S.H.I.E.L.D. at this point. Yeah, definitely S.H.I.E.L.D. During the fight, they were fighting on a dormant volcano, which, dude, isn't that the most comic book thing ever? That's like, I remember that from every cartoon in the 90s. People were always hiding bases in dormant volcanoes.
That or like a Bond villain.
Yeah, or a Bond villain. Yeah, so during that fight that ensued on this dormant, air quotes, volcano, it actually erupted, and all signs of the Red Guardian got destroyed. So everybody assumed that he died at this point because, a volcano went off. As you know, volcanoes usually are pretty good at destroying stuff. Usually, not 100% of the time, but they do a bit of a job.
Well, we did learn that not a lot can take down David Harbour. So.
That's true. I mean, he has been lit on fire and shot, and oh my god, dude, he gets sent to like a Russian prison camp.
Yep, at the end of Stranger Things.
Oh my gosh, dude, that's where Stranger Things is going to tie into the MCU.
They're going to bring it in.
They're going to bring him in as the Red Guardian.
After the explosion, he now put on a Russian accent, became a superhero.
Oh my god, I would love that so much. So long story short, he wasn't actually killed in this. He managed to escape the volcano explosion, essentially living off of pure rage and psychopathness. He later got tracked down by Natasha and S.H.I.E.L.D. After he resurfaced, because he started doing just kind of different crime. Like, he didn't go rejoin the KGB immediately, but he, kind of like a Taskmaster-esque character where he's like, I'm like this well-trained soldier. I enjoy killing people. Seems like a pretty good way to interact. And honestly, he kind of just got captured to him and sent to like the fridge. It wasn't like this crazy chase or anything like that. Like, they just got him, which is really rare. Like, when is that the comic book point where it's like, hey, we found him, and it's like, what do we do? We caught him. Oh,
yeah, just like got him without a fight.
Yeah, there wasn't like a crazy world-ending fight or anything like that. It was very, very interesting. And then that's kind of honestly the end of the major storyline of the Red Guardian. One additional thing that I would say I thought was pretty interesting, and this is not him as Red Guardian, this is Alexei as something else, is he actually becomes a Ronin at one point, which if you've seen the Endgame, you know that Hawkeye becomes Ronin. So Ronin isn't just Hawkeye, and it isn't like just this or just that. So Ronin's like a title that a bunch of people have held throughout the Marvel universe, and he was one of the Ronins at one point, which again is just kind of somebody that roams around in that kind of similar like ninja kind of outfit with swords and stuff, killing bad guys. I didn't want to go too much into that iteration of him because it's not Red Guardian precisely, but I thought it was an interesting note that he was a Ronin as well, which is, not a ton of people have been Ronin. I think there were like 5 Ronins, and it's interesting that he's one. Oh, also, this is Ronin with an I, not Ronin with an A. Ronin with an A is the Kree fanatic.
Ronin the Accuser from the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Ronin the Accuser. Who he's
Guardians
really
of the Galaxy and Captain Marvel.
Oh, yeah. I always forget he's in Captain Marvel for like 2 seconds. And then
he doesn't wear the
wrecked.
black makeup, and he looks wrong.
He looks like a baby kind of in it, doesn't it?
Yeah,
without
it doesn't
the makeup. Yeah, it's not. It does not look good as accurate.
Yeah, well, the interesting thing about the Ronin thing is that when Hawkeye goes Ronin in Endgame, he basically goes around in that movie just slaughtering like cartel gangs and like gangs around like was he in like Asia somewhere and like Mexico? Like
I believe at the end when we get introduced to him as Ronin in that, I think he's killing the Chinese triad.
Yeah,
because like the triad pops up a lot in a lot of Marvel stuff as well.
Yeah, I think the point I think that is important is that he's not like taking down bad guys. Because when he's like killing bad guys, he's not like, taking down bad guys like an Iron Man would. He's like in a bad way slaughtering these like bad guys. Is that what a Ronin does? Like, is that
essentially? Yes, I would essentially say that is kind of what a Ronin does. Not that they're as equally like aggressive, where they're like, I'm just gonna go out every day and kill and kill and kill. It's more like tools of the trade. Ronins use swords, they use bows, they use shurikens, things like that. So there isn't really like a PG way to take a guy in. Yeah. As a Ronin, it's like, yeah, you just kind of gotta kill him, you know? Like,
yeah, but Hawkeye in Endgame was an extreme case.
Oh yeah, that was an extreme case. Okay. He was literally just wandering the world murdering, which, you know,
that's more where I was
bad
asking,
guys. Yeah. So they're not necessarily all exactly as violent as that, but they are killers. At the end of the day, they are killers. Okay. Yeah, so that was a cool additional little storyline that he was in. And maybe someday we'll do an episode on just like iterations of Ronins. I think that could be a lot of fun.
Yeah, that'd be a good one.
But focusing more on the Red Guardian iteration of our friend Alexei. So I've talked a little bit about it, but what would you think I would call his powers? / what do you think his powers are?
I'm going to have to do what I always do and start with super strength.
Actually, oddly enough, he does not necessarily have super strength. This
Really?
is like our first guy. Yeah, he's what is generally put into the category of like peak human fitness. So he's like an Olympic level athlete, but he didn't actually get like superhero serum or super soldier serum. He was just like very, 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 very well trained. In some iterations, he has like, I think he has like a bionic implant or something like that. But for the most part, no, he's actually kind of like if Hawkeye had like 50 pounds of muscle on him.
Interesting, because I'm looking at this photo of David Harbour still from the trailer where he's flexing, and yeah, I could see a peak physicality in that man.
Peak. Yeah, I like that I use the term peak human fitness, and earlier on in the podcast, my description of him was like, yeah, he just kind of looks like he used to be in shape, and now he's just kind of a little older.
You know why? Because this is accessible human fitness.
That's true.
Not everyone can look like Chris Evans. Sometimes you gotta look like Red Guardian.
Peak human fitness is, for the most part, accessible human fitness. So yeah,
you know what? It's gotta be relatable.
Yeah, he's gotta be relatable. He appeals to, you know, he's my kind of fitness. You know, it's like, you know, there's muscle there. You can't see it, but you know it's there.
It's a thing of like, he doesn't look like six-pack Chris Hemsworth, but he looks like strong.
Yeah, he does look strong. I think a lot of the scenes where, because there's a lot that you see in the different videos for that movie where like he's like picking people up and slamming them into walls and stuff. He looks like that kind of strength. You know, just like a brute force, kind of like a Ronin. You know, like I imagine Ronin's probably not like infinitely shredded, but he's probably just like thick. Or like Drax. Drax is thick. But that's
also Dave Bautista is pretty massive.
Oh god, dude, I love Dave Bautista. I was so excited when they announced that.
I was surprised considering his acting roles before Guardians of the Galaxy were not exactly good.
Yeah, I would agree with that. But you know what? They picked a character that works well for people with his traditional acting skills.
Well, he did a good job. I don't know if this is true, but apparently he got like an acting coach because he wanted to do really well, and he did. He was fantastic in the Guardian as Drax in any of the movies that he was in.
I imagine that he probably, just based off like the success he had in like the WWE and stuff, I imagine he probably works exceptionally hard at like whatever he's gonna do. So I could see him going 110% if he like really wanted to get into acting, and I dig it.
Yeah, I think David Harbour is kind of interesting way of doing that, playing Red Guardian, because he's changed his body a lot through his roles. I mean, nowhere near like Christian Bale kind of way, but you see him in like Stranger Things. He's kind of got like that dad bod. He's not really in shape. He's just kind of a cop with like a drinking problem in that show. And then you see him do Hellboy, and he's strong and he's big and he's like this big muscular Hellboy guy. And then you see him in this one. He's kind of in between. He's kind of like you said, he's a retired superhero. He's still strong, but he's kind of in between that, like,
man, I'm dumb. I can't believe I didn't think to phrase it that way, as that he is essentially a retired superhero. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, like you can tell he was a superhero, like especially when he puts on the suit and he's like, you can tell that suit fit him better in past years.
I think they even make a joke about that, where he's like trying to put his belt buckle on or something like that. He's like, let me suck in the gut.
I don't remember the trailer like scene for scene, but I think you're right. I think there's something in there like showing that. All
right, so what else do you think this guy has?
You said he was a good pilot, so maybe something with piloting?
Yeah, he's an ace pilot. It was said that when he was in the KGB, he was the best pilot in the Soviet Union.
Okay.
So I consider that a power. It's one of those, like, I like to throw in some of those fun things where it's like, it's not a super power, but it's, it's an important trait to that individual. So I would definitely put that on his. He is a ace pilot.
Yeah, besides that, I don't know. I can't. If he doesn't have superhuman strength, maybe I doubt. Just looking at his character speed,
peak human fitness.
Yeah, peak human fitness. I can't think of anything outside of that. Maybe.
So this is another one of those kind of cop-outy superhero ones, but he's really skilled at different types of hand-to-hand combat. He's a skilled marksman. Kind of the classic super soldier kind of things. He's good at all that stuff.
Okay.
And then this is more of an equipment than it is a power, but I'm going to include it anyways. So he has a magnetic system in his utility belt that essentially allows him to use his disc, which is not a shield, kind of similar to Captain America's shield, which is not a disc, and throw it and use the magnet system to like reel the belt back into him. Because that's another thing with like Captain America that's in a bunch of iterations is people always ask like, how does he do what he does? Like, how's he like, because shields don't really work that way, like, and they always described his as being a blend of trick shots, but then in some iterations of Captain America, he actually has like a bracer kind of thing that is a magnet that pulls the shield back to him. So traditionally in the Red Guardian's case, he has a magnet system on his belt that allows him to bring the disc back to him.
See, it sounds an awful lot like a shield when you say it like that.
When I phrase it like that, it does. That's why I'm being very careful with making sure everyone knows it's a disc and not a shield.
See, the problem is, I think that his, I would believe, is a disc, but I think Captain America's is a lot more of a disc than a shield, considering it's round and he throws it like a frisbee.
If you see it in the comic books, it makes more sense. Honestly, I think in the MCU, it's just going to be a shield. But in the comic books, it's like the size of a belt buckle, and it like expands when he pulls it out. So I see the argument a lot more with that one.
Okay.
Yeah, so because like if you see images of them, like I don't know if you've done like just like a Google image search of like the traditional cartoon Red Guardian, it's a pretty small circle. I mean it's like a big belt buckle, but I'd call it like an average Texan belt buckle. But yeah, then he grabs it out and he'll like frisbee throw it, and it expands into I'm gonna call it like a shield-sized disc.
All right, we could go on about the disc for shield
we can go
forever.
on with the disc thing forever. Next thing I want to go to is essentially who this character's heroes and villains are. Normally, this is much more of like a big guessing game. But as I went through the origin of this character, that's actually the most of this character. Like, that's kind of his whole story in the comic books. Like, as the Red Guardian, it's kind of just him fighting on that dormant volcano, getting lost, getting picked up by S.H.I.E.L.D., and at some point later becoming a Ronin, and then that whole thing. So realistically, like, he frequently runs into Captain America and Black Widow. Kind of makes sense. He was designed to be the Soviet Captain America. Makes sense.
Yeah, so he's a good guy, right? Like he works together with Captain America and Black Widow. Oh, no, he's a villain. Okay,
so it's slightly complicated. So he's definitely a villain of Captain America. However, depending on where you find him in the story, because of him and Black Widow's relationship, sometimes he's an ally of Black Widow. But I don't know if there's any iterations where him and Captain America are on the same side. Like, I don't think he was involved in Civil War or any situation where they'd be able to loop up like that. But he is sometimes friendly with Black Widow, as husband and wife sometimes are. Sometimes they're friendly.
Not in the MCU always, but...
Yeah, I feel like the only person that has a functional relationship in the MCU is, like, Tony Stark's is kind of functional.
Enough for as much as Tony Stark can have a functional relationship.
Yeah, and then Hawkeye's is. You know, is
Oh,
there
yeah,
anyone
yeah,
else
that's a good
that
one.
really has like a functional, like normal relationship in the MCU?
No, because you know what? They're superheroes. Superheroes can't have functional relationships.
Oh, and that's funny. And the two ones that have functional relationships or almost do, Hawkeye's not really a superhero, and Iron Man is really at his core just a smart dude. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? He's a smart dude that built a suit. Like, I could build an Iron Man suit. It's not
You
that
couldn't build an
hard.
Iron Man suit.
It's not that hard. Like, they act like it's rocket science. It's suit science. Rocket suit science.
With rocket suits in the suit.
Bingo. Well, it's not like he flies into the air like a rocket. It's not rocket science.
Oh, right.
And then, essentially, as I always like to boil it down, as I always say, the healthiest thing is to compare everything to everything.
Comparison is
rigorously and aggressively. It's very healthy. He's Captain America. Let's be honest. He's Captain America without superhero serum.
Yeah, he's Russian Captain America.
And you know what? Even before he underwent the program to train him to be like this, he was a really good, virtuous man. And so, I mean, like, before he got kind of warped by this training, he was like Steve Rogers. He was a good guy. So, you know, I think that's a fair comparison for the Russian equivalents, you know?
Yeah, I'd say so.
So he's an interesting guy. I'm really excited to see how they work with him in the movie, because honestly, this movie's probably going to be some of the most exposition the comic book world has gotten on the Red Guardian. He's not usually super delved into, and I think there's a lot of potential there. I like all the actors and actresses in the movies. I think it's going to be pretty darn wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, I think David Harbour is going to do a phenomenal job. I mean, Stranger Things is amazing. He's absolutely was the best part for me of that show.
Oh, I'd agree with that. He was,
yeah.
Every scene I was waiting for David Harbour to get back onto the screen. Especially, he has interesting fight scenes in all of the things he does. Like, I'm looking at everything he does. He always fights, like, no matter what role he's in. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I feel like it's some sort of anger issue related to his characters.
he's got some physicality in there. But yeah, I'm super excited. I also think he's one of those people where he has good physicality, but I think he's also funny. I really appreciate the way that he's funny. Like, he's not like Chris Pratt funny, where it's just like, oh my God, like rolling over laughing, that's so funny. Like, but he makes me chuckle at just the things he does and the way he does them, which I think is really good for the MCU. Like,
I think he does a good job of having relatable humor, of like saying what I guess what a lot of people would feel in whatever situation he's in.
Yeah, and I think that's gonna make the Western audience get more appealed to all these Russian characters, because I feel like there's like a social, I don't want to say a social distancing, because we're in the middle of this whole like Corona thing, so I feel like that means something different. But like, there's like a mismatch where like, I don't think people are like, oh, let me put myself in the mind of a Russian person, because I think your average like traditional Western audience doesn't necessarily know what it is like to be Russian or anything like that. And I think he's going to be a character that really bridges that and makes it relatable, where it'd be like, oh, that guy's a dude just like us. You know, like it's not like, oh, this movie with like Russian people. It's just going to be a movie with people that happens to be in Russia because they got this relatable fellow.
I think it's going to be a really good movie. I'm very excited for it. I mean, it's a bummer that because of everything going on in the world, it was pushed back till November 6th.
God, that's such a long pushback. That was it got pushed back to the Eternals date, correct?
I think so, because everything in the MCU got pushed back. They
God.
came out with, as of recording yesterday, they came out with this thing saying Black Widow was pushed till November 6th, 2020, and then everything else got pushed back. The Eternals, February 12th, 2021, Shang-Chi, May 7th, 2021, Doctor Strange, November 5th, 2021, and then to 2022, Thor: Love and Thunder to February, Black Panther 2 to May, Captain Marvel 2 to July, and then an untitled movie that they haven't announced yet till October. So because of everything in the world, everything's gotten pushed back, and it's always a bummer because like I was so excited to go see Black Widow in May, and now to, but you know, understandably,
I mean, you got to do what you got to do. It's unfortunate, but I mean, I think everybody's kind of being hit in every industry right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's smarter for them to wait because you don't want to be the people that release their movie right now and say, go to the theater and see it, and then you're endangering people's lives.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's the most important thing that everybody needs to think of at this point is trying to keep safe. I'm going to be a little bit of selfishness here because I have Disney Plus. I was really hoping they were going to like sneakily be like, hey, everybody should probably buy Disney Plus because we're going to put Black Widow on there. And that's going to be like, oh, yes. But like, it is apparently not being done that way. But they are releasing some other stuff that was not meant to be put on Disney Plus yet or at all onto Disney Plus. I think.
Yeah, Onward got put on.
Yeah,
yesterday.
Onward. Are they pushing back? Mulan either got pushed back or is doing Disney Plus. I think it got pushed back.
No, Mulan got
though.
delayed.
It got delayed? Okay.
Yeah, so it's harder to... You can't just put a movie like that onto a streaming service. It's the same way like The Last of Us 2, the video game, got pushed back and people were like, just release it digitally. It's like, that's not exactly how it works. There's a process here. There's budgets. There's money that goes into releasing these movies in certain ways. And to throw it on like Disney Plus, like, yeah, they'll get $8 or $7 a month from people to maybe watch the movie.
Yeah.
But then also, you're making a fraction of it back. That's going to take a big loss. Whereas if you still release in the theater, you can see, I'm a big proponent of seeing movies in the theater. I'm a big advocate for still like people going to theaters because that's the way that these movies are intended to be seen. And then being able to watch it at home later is a plus. But when you have a movie like this, a big scale action movie with these big actors and these big budgets, the only way they're going to recoup their costs is if they release it into a theater and they get ticket costs as well as costs later down the line of getting it on iTunes or Blu-ray or DVD or whatever you watch it on. So I'm fine with them pushing it back as long as so that way I could see the movie the way that they intended it to be seen.
That makes sense. I mean, mine was not so much like a realistic peg, but just a
No, I know.
Yeah.
Like I watched Onward last night, which
Was it good?
Disney Pixar. Oh my god, so good. But there were so many moments where I was watching and going, I wish I could have seen this in the theater because the animation is so good. You're like, I kind of wish I could have seen that on the big screen because that was really cool.
That's how I've felt every time I've seen a Miyazaki film.
Yeah.
I'll be like, oh man, if I could see this in theater.
Yeah, that's how I felt. Like Onward was so good, and I wish I could have seen the theater. I didn't get around to it, and then it left and then theaters closed down and everything like that. But that one was really, really good. I'd really recommend watching Onward if you guys have Disney Plus, or it's on streaming services. Other than that, you can buy it. But that was one where I was like, I wish I could see it in the theaters because it was really good. The animation was amazing.
Well, that is good to hear. I'm glad you're finding some entertainment in these times still. So I think that's pretty much the gist of the Red Guardian. I'm sad the movie got delayed, but I'm still super excited for it. Why don't you tell us a little more about our Red Trolley, our beer of the day? Yeah,
so Red Trolley is from Karl Strauss Brewing Company.
Fantastic brewery, by the way. I love like every Karl Strauss beer.
Yeah, I mean, you can get this beer all over California. I'm pretty sure it's just all over the state of California. So if you guys live in California, you think you can get it pretty much any store, 7-Eleven. You can get kegs, bottles.
More kegs.
Or go to a Karl Strauss Brewing Company. It's a 5.8 alcohol by volume. And let's see, it's an Irish style red ale, which I'm not a huge proponent of Irish style red ales, but this one's actually pretty good. It's got like kind of like a toffee flavor to it, which is interesting.
Ooh, candy.
Yeah, it's really interesting, and it's legit red. Like you pour it into a glass, and it's basically a red beer.
Dude, those are my favorite beers. When you pour them out, and you're just like, that's not what beer looks like. Like you get that a lot with like milk stouts and stuff. You pour the beer,
yeah,
and you're like, wait, but that's not what beer looks like. And then you drink it, and you're like, but that's what beer should taste like.
Yeah, and it's got Glacier and Willamette hops, which I don't know a whole lot about the flavor profile of those hops, because I don't drink a lot of reds, so they're kind of new to me. I usually drink like an IPA or something, which will have like a mosaic, but it's pretty good. I've had it at Karl Strauss Brewing.
Oh, I mean, that's the best way to do it.
Yeah, that's the only time I've really had it is there. I've never bought it at a store before, until obviously this, but It's good. It's very balanced kind of beer, and if you guys want to learn more about it, you can go to the Carl Strauss website where they talk about how it has hints of raisins and currants. I didn't necessarily taste that.
Well, it is hints. It's hints of raisins and currants.
That's true. It is hints, and it's good. I would recommend it to people, especially if you like red ale. It's really good red ale.
All right, so let's get down to the brass tacks of it. Before having seen this movie, knowing just what you know about the Red Guardian and about Red Trolley, how many comicals out of 10 would you rate each of these, both the beer and the Red Guardian?
All right, so first the beer. I'm going to give it a 6, but that's because I'm not the biggest fan of red ales.
That's fair.
But I'm sure other people would rate it higher.
Remember, on our scale, a 5 is legitimately okay. We're not
a 5 is
going
like
off a grading scale.
Yeah, like Ben says in the past weeks, this isn't 5, like 5 is 1. Like this is 5 is like 5 is halfway through. Like I would give this a 6. It's good.
Solid beer.
It's good, but
solid beer.
Yeah. And Red Guardian, I mean, right now I gotta give, based on the trailers, I gotta give them like a 9.
Oh, so the hype is real. The hype is real.
I'm excited for this movie. I was getting ready to buy tickets for this movie, and then obviously it got pushed back. I'm still gonna buy tickets the second I can. I have a tradition of seeing every Marvel movie opening night.
Wow, you're a better Marvel fan than I am.
The movies, I love.
Oh yeah, the movies. I probably read more of the comic books day one than you do.
you definitely do. I am very excited for this movie, and based on hype alone, I'm gonna give him 9 out of 10 comicallys.
That's awesome.
What are you giving it, these things?
Let's see. So I did not have a Red Trolley today, but I have had Red Trolley a lot in the past because I am a Red fan. So I would give it like a 7.5 or an 8 out of 10.
Okay.
That's with the understanding that I like red ales. As far as Red Guardian, I would say if they were trying to make Russian Captain America, I'd give them a 10 out of 10. And as a character, I'd probably give him like an 8.5 out of 10. Like he's solid.
That's still pretty high.
I wish there was more. I wish there was more Red Guardian, but you know what? We got a movie coming. We're getting more Red Guardian. So that's a win. That's a win.
Yeah, and if this does well, maybe he's going to be in future movies. Maybe we'll see the Red Guardian again.
He meets up with Bucky and Sam.
And Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Yeah. Well, you got the Winter Soldier. There's Russian ties in there. You never know.
That's true.
I don't think it's going to happen, but you never know.
I don't think it is either.
Hey, what are you going to do? So I think that's about all for us on this episode.
Yeah. I think the last thing I got to say is I know that the movie got pushed back, but we are still going to do Black Widow month. And maybe we'll do a wrap-up or like a roundup episode before the movie comes out in November, but we are going to finish Black Widow month. So next week we are going to do Black Widow herself. So get excited for that. Stay tuned. We learn a lot before, and then let it marinate, and then go see the movie.
Ooh, let it marinate.
Yeah, listen to us. Let it kind of sit for a little bit. Maybe listen to it again before the movie so it's fresh, and then go see the movie.
Yeah, we're just trying to keep a little bit of normality going.
Exactly.
You know, it's been weird. Again, we appreciate everybody bearing with us as well if this episode is a little different than some of the previous ones, just because it's a different setup for us.
Yeah, so I think, is that the episode?
Yeah.
Is that what we're calling it?
Yeah, I think we're calling it right there. So thanks, everybody, for watching. This was Comically Incompetent. As always, I'm Ben.
And I'm Doug.
And thanks for listening.
Stay safe.
Bye.